Merry meet, friends! So, next week is CostumeCon 38. If you are not aware what CostumeCon is, despite its name, people always think, oh, it's costume convention. CostumeCon is a conference. Very big difference. CostumeCon is a traveling conference. So every single year, it is in a different city. This will be my third time going to CostumeCon. My first time was at 32 in 2014 when it was in Toronto. And that same year it was voted to come back to Toronto, so I went in 2017. Every year they vote for where it's going to be in 3 years. So this year is 38, and they are voting for 41. So CostumeCon 41 will be in 2023? I'm assuming my math's right. Don't take my word on it because I'm really bad at math. Dyscalculia is not fun. So I decided, because there's really not a lot about CostumeCon on YouTube, that I would make a video to help anybody who wants to go to CostumeCon for the first time. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on CostumeCon by any means, but I thought, hey, I've been a couple times. Anybody that has never been can watch this video and get a better idea of what they're tackling when they first attend CostumeCon. So, first of all, like I said, CostumeCon is a conference, not a convention. So, because it's a conference, it focuses more on, rather than photo shoots and the dealer's room, like there is a dealer's room, don't get me wrong, but the dealer's room is going to be more like fabrics, trims, notions, corset making supplies, stuff like that. It's going to be stuff that focuses more on making the costume rather than artwork or plushies or stuff like that. It's going to be stuff focusing on the making of costumes. So, one thing you want to keep in mind when you first go to CostumeCon, do not expect it to be like, for example, using cons. I've attended Anime North, Otakuthon, YetiCon, or really any other anime, video game, Comic-Con, or whatever convention you normally attend. CostumeCon is nothing like those events. And I say this because I've been there. I went the first year expecting some similarities, and the only similarity I found was people in costumes. That was it. That was literally it. Just people in costumes was the only similarity I could find. Because CostumeCon's programming entirely focuses on costumes, which should be obvious, really, because it's called CostumeCon, but there are so many people that automatically assume, oh, it's a con, it's just gonna be like Anime North, or be like Otakuthon. Just, no, it's not like those at all. All of the programming, the workshops and panels are all about making costumes, researching, wearing, photography. There's not too many photography panels at CostumeCon from what I recall, but they do occur, if I remember correctly. Number 2. Wait, I'm not numbering these. Oops! Oh well, anyway. Like any other convention, CostumeCon has a masquerade. But it doesn't just have one masquerade. It has 4 masquerades. They are all judged very differently, and they take place over the course of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So the 4 standard masquerades are the single pattern contest, which is, I think it's a year in advance that the staff of the conference for that year chooses 3 to 4 commercially available patterns for you to choose from, and either follow the pattern 100% and turn it into whatever, using the pattern as it's intended, or you completely transform it into something different. So single pattern contest, from what I remember, the judging is mostly just focused on the making of the garment and how you adapted or completely transformed the pattern. And for the stage part, it's more like a fashion show. You don't choose your music. From what I remember, you walk on, do one pose, go to the center of the stage, do another pose, go to the other side of the stage, do another pose, and walk off. It's really straightforward, and if you've never done it before, they do let you know, hey, this is how this is going to work. And I'm sorry for any noise you might hear. You might either hear the rain because I'm in my trailer and it's raining, or you might hear the heater because it's like 2 degrees, maybe 2 degrees outside at most. So, yes, single pattern contest operates, you judge the workmanship and the adaptation of the pattern or the transformation of it, and then stage is literally just posing. You don't do any real like performing like you would in a normal masquerade. So that's that. Oh yeah, and there are no division systems in the single pattern. Everybody's on the same playing field. So like, if you're normally in the novice division in any masquerade, you could be easily going up against somebody that's in master division. And guess what? You could still win against that master. I've seen it done before. And it's crazy the stuff that people crank out for these competitions. So the second masquerade is the Sci-Fi Fantasy Masquerade, and it is Saturday night. Also, single pattern contest is Friday night, usually during or before the Friday night social. I'm not quite sure the scheduling yet for this year's, but I'll find out soon enough, I guess. The Sci-Fi Fantasy Masquerade is Saturday night, like your standard masquerade, and guess what? It operates like your standard masquerade. It has a division system, although if you live in Canada, so you're used to novice, journeyman, artisan, and master, bye-bye to artisan. Get rid of it. Artisan doesn't exist at CostumeCon. Also, say you are regional artisan, which I am. You would level yourself down to journeyman. Even a regional master, what? I don't know how it would work for a regional master, if they'd have to go down to journeyman or just stay a master, because CostumeCon is international level. And the only other international level convention masquerades that I know of are WorldCon and Anime North. So if you're a master in any of those, you instantly go to that. Artisan at Anime North, I'm not sure. If you're international artisan level at Anime North and you want to compete at CostumeCon, ask the masquerade director which division they feel you should enter, because sometimes you may not want to make that jump to master, but you're not sure if you should drop down to artisan. I'm not quite sure how that would work. But the judging works the same as you would expect. They judge the workmanship, how well it's made. If it's a cosplay, so recreation, they judge how well you recreated the design. There's actually 2 categories, if I recall, for judging the workmanship. And that's for original creations, so I think that's purely how well you made it and how well it manifested from your imagination and your original design. And recreation is like cosplay, which is what people usually see at masquerades. And of course, performance is pretty standard. They judge how well it moves on stage, how it looks, how it fits. Well, not so much how it looks, but it's going to be mostly like how well you perform, how well the costume performs on stage. I've literally seen on stage somebody's prop fall apart on stage. Anyway, so that's the first 2 masquerades. The third one is the Future Fashion Folio. I don't know if they just call it Future Fashion Folio or Future Fashion Folio Showcase or Future Fashion Showcase. Either way, it's Future Fashion. This competition actually has 2 parts. Part 1 is before the conference ever happens. So people send in their own original costume or fashion designs to be put into the folio. The winners are put into the folio and it's emailed out to every attendee of the conference as a PDF file. Apparently they used to mail a physical copy, but of course postage is hella expensive, and if you have to mail the same thing that's probably going to be like anywhere from 40 to 300 pages to each person, 1, that's really expensive printing, and 2, that's really expensive postage. So it's cheaper to just put it all into a PDF file and send it off via email, and that way everybody gets the damn thing pretty instantaneously, which I thought was a great idea when they started doing that. I don't remember when they started doing that, but I'm pretty sure it's in like the last 10 years. I hope. So the winners are put into the fashion folio and it's sent out to everybody. Anybody that wants to compete in the Future Fashion Folio, all they have to do is go through the folio, pick a design they really like and would like to make, and email the director of the showcase. That's it. That's literally part 1. Part 2 is very similar to how the single pattern contest works, except you aren't judged by how well you adapt or transform the pattern, because chances are you might have had to modify a commercial pattern anyway, or make your own. Personally, I make my own all the time, because it's easier for certain things, and I don't like having to go buy a pattern for something I'm probably going to make once. So, the judging for it, the workmanship is pretty standard. They judge how well you've made it, how well it's finished, etc., etc. And the stage portion operates the exact same way that the single pattern contest does, where they have you go out on stage, you do 1, 2, or 3 poses. The last time I did it was 3 poses, and you walk off. That's it. It's pretty straightforward, and it's a lot of fun, and it is Sunday morning, and I think it starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. So if you enter, make sure you go to bed at a half-decent time Saturday night. Although if you're crazy like me, this year I'm doing single pattern contest, sci-fi fantasy masquerade, and the Future Fashion Show. So Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning. It would have been worse if I had done the 4th masquerade, but nope. Anyway, on to the 4th masquerade, which is Sunday night. The final masquerade is the historical masquerade. And this one is, oh my god, it's very different from what you normally have for a masquerade. First of all, when you have to book an appointment for your workmanship judging. You heard me. You book an appointment for your workmanship judging. And they actually say on the website, they recommend that unless you want the judges to look down your trousers or down your shirt and see your underwear, don't wear the costume to your workmanship judging. Instead, bring it in on a clothes rack or a mannequin or something. Bring it in on something that's not your body. Because they will look down your pants and down your shirt. They are going to make sure that you have done everything according to how it would have been made in your chosen time period. So if you've made something that is, say, pre-1850, they want to see as much hand sewing as possible. Because guess what? The sewing machine wasn't invented until about 1850 or 60. So, good luck with that. They want to see attention to detail, to historical elements. Pay attention to anything that would have been done at that point in history for how they would have made the garment. Anything you can find, like say, for example, the costume I was making, it had a lot of discrepancies in reference images, so try to find out why there would be such a discrepancy. Like, if you're making a military uniform and, like, all your examples have different amounts of, like, twist on it, find out why that might be. I found out that it's because each officer had to pay for their uniform to be made. So it really came down to depending on how much the officer could afford and personal taste. So, if you were poor, you probably had much fewer rows of twist, and if you were rich, well, you can put all the twist you want. Anyway, that's the workmanship part. The performance part operates pretty standard to a normal masquerade. And then you have the, believe it or not, they judge your documentation. Because you need to prove that you did the research about the time period and the location and about how your costume would have been made. And you can win awards for documentation. I've seen some pretty impressive documentation pieces for historical masquerade, and wow. Wow. So those are the masquerades, and as a follow-up regarding, this is for all four. The awards are like an hour or so after the masquerade. So if, say, like the sci-fi fantasy masquerade ends at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock the awards will probably start. Depending, I don't know what time those masquerades are gonna end. But like, awards are usually given out like an hour after the masquerade's over. Because there's like no time to schedule an actual award ceremony for each separate masquerade. And as well, each single one is available to purchase on DVD the very next day. I don't know how much that'll be, but I know that every year they're available on DVD to buy. And I can't really find any footage of any of the masquerades anywhere on YouTube or online at all. I don't know. Another thing that makes Costume Con very different from your normal convention, besides the fact that it travels around and focuses on costumes entirely, it has a con suite. What's a con suite, you might ask? So the con suite is a place where you can go and chill. It's usually a really large suite somewhere in the hotel, and they will tell you what room it is so you can go find it if you need it. And it's a place you can usually go and chill. They have foods that you can eat. From what I remember, they'll do like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they'll have like set times for being closed so that they can prepare for the next round. And it's really nice. So you don't usually have to worry too much about food when you go to Costume Con, but don't rely on it entirely. Like, if you are a person who is really used to like having a full course dinner or something, like, I don't know, like, but I wouldn't rely on it too heavily. I usually go for like snack foods, and I really don't want to go to my specific hotel room because I know what's in my hotel. Half the time it's nothing. But this year I'm bringing food, so... But it's really nice, and the people that run it are usually members of other ICG chapters. And a lot of the money for buying the food is donated, which I think is actually really cool. And they will listen if you have any concerns. I know for this year, somebody mentioned about they have a gluten allergy. Is it an allergy? I don't remember. And they were told to just message the people who will be running the con suite, and if they want, they can make a donation to ensure that there will be gluten-free options, which I think is really cool. So don't be afraid to message these people saying, hey, I have this specific food allergy or concern. What can I do to ensure I'm not going to have a problem? Personally, my only issue is blueberries, and it literally just comes to not ingesting anything with natural blueberries in it. It's that simple for me. Other people, it's not that simple, but another thing that's big with Costume Con, and it seems to be a big thing with Costume College that happens in, is it Woodland Hills? Oakland Hills? Whatever, something hills in California. And that's ribbons! So, these are both of my Costume Con passes from 2014 and 2017. How the hell do I have this? Oh, I have them both on the same loop now because it was just easier for space. So, my 2014 one for 32, I had very few ribbons, but I was also behind a table for like 90% of the convention, or conference. So, if this is your first Costume Con, actually anytime it's your first Costume Con, so you only get this ribbon once. It literally says, oh, is it going to focus? No. Okay, but this top one here says my first Costume Con. You get that once. They won't always look the same for the My First Costume Con ones. This is my one from 2014, and it's just plain white with black text. The ones for this year are rainbow with black text. And my only other ribbons I got on it were Friend of Dawn, because I am friends with Dawn McKechnie, who was running Costume Con that year. Moo, with a little star sticker. And I got Moo because, what was it, the next year was in Wisconsin. And is Wisconsin a city or a state? State? I think it's a state. Either way. And if I recall correctly, what they wanted you to do to earn this ribbon was at least make an attempt at pronouncing some of the really out there names of some of the cities and towns. And I nailed like most of them, and because I nailed most of them, I got the star sticker. My rainbow one is Sarcasm Hime's Gay Posse, and I don't know if I want to explain that. I'm gonna let my friend Sarcasm Hime explain that if she watches this video, if she wants to explain it. And then my bottom one I actually got on Monday, because I didn't know that Costume Con's Monday was only like a half day thing, so I came in full costume, and of course it was my most fancy costume the whole weekend. And I got a, excuse you, CC35 likes your costume. Each year of Costume Con is themed as well. So 2014 for 32 was Myths, Beasts, and Fantastical Creatures or something like that. It was very fantasy themed. 35, where I last went to, was Heroes and Villains. And you would grab a ribbon if you were cosplaying or costuming a villain, hero if you were being a hero, or bystander. Because I was doing all three, I grabbed all three. They also give you these like ribbons. They're like the Facebook like. I don't think that's going to focus. Oh, there we go. You can kind of see it. It's like the Facebook like. So they actually give you a holo award that you can give out to somebody because you like their costume. It can be anybody. Your best friend, some random person. You just have to like their costume. That's literally the only requirement. And you only get one of these. And of course, anybody that voted, I think this is for anybody that voted for CostumeCon 38 to be in Montreal. They got the CC38 Another Time, Another World ribbon. There were some people that had ribbon chains so long they were folding them up like that. They had to fold them up. Like, personally, I would be giving out ribbons like that, or the stack of ribbon, but unfortunately, due to time and money, I'm not. However, despite not doing the stack of ribbons, I'm giving out my own little handmade little kind of rosette ribbons using leftover ribbon that I have absolutely no use for. So these are eco-friendly ribbons. I'm gonna admit right now, they are, oh, I probably should have grabbed a different colored one, but they are far from perfect. I'm planning to put a little plastic jewel in the middle of each one. And I'm also going to put like a safety pin on the back so they can pin it wherever they please. I prefer not on their costume, maybe like a lanyard, their lanyard or something. And this will just be given out to any costumes I really like. And I am making all of these by hand using leftover ribbon. So a lot of people think that because CostumeCon is so costume based, obviously, that of course people are going to bring their A game, especially with having those 4 big masquerades. There's also a doll costume contest every year, but I don't know a lot about that one, and it's very different from anything I'm used to. So because people think that CostumeCon involves everybody's A game, which is true, a lot of people bring their A game for this this conference. But that does not mean that every costume you wear there has to be handmade or 100% handmade. It does not. You can wear your cosplay from eBay and people will love it. I have seen this. You can wear your closet cosplay and people will still enjoy it. You can wear any costume, just not the turd. Don't ever do that. Look it up. So, you can wear any costume. People will love it. It doesn't matter if it's handmade. It doesn't matter if it's store-bought. It doesn't matter if you literally went to Value Village, threw some clothes together and said, hey, this is a costume. It does not matter. People will still like your costume. It doesn't matter what it looks like, how it was made, if you made it, if aliens from space made it, people will love it. At no point should you ever feel judged while you're at CostumeCon. This will be my 3rd time, like I said before, and in the 2 times I went, I never once felt judged. And I wore Homestuck cosplay to CostumeCon the first year I went. So, well, I'm going to recommend that with CostumeCon, a lot of people are very familiar with room stuffing. I don't recommend doing it for CostumeCon. I really don't. More so because you were there for like 3 or 4 days. You're more than likely going to have a lot of stuff. Anyway, just don't room stuff for CostumeCon. It's very ill-advised. Actually, it's ill-advised to do anyway for any con, but CostumeCon, it just seems extra bad, so just don't do it. So, I'm not entirely sure, but I think some costume cons have repair stations, but just in case, bring a repair kit for your costumes, because you never know if something is going to go wrong. CostumeCon also runs tours. Yeah, believe it or not, CostumeCon does tours. I know for this year, they have a tour at, I think it's a museum for Le Grand Costumier, and I think some of the costumes that are part of that exhibit are going to be at the exhibit at the conference. Yeah, Costume Con also has an exhibit of people's work. Sometimes they are the works of people who attend Costume Con, or they're from costume exhibits at a local museum. So you never know what kind of thing you're going to find in that exhibit. And I highly recommend going if you ever go to Costume Con. Because, wow. Wow. Not only does Costume Con do tours to like local museums that have a costume exhibit, or costuming exhibits, or costume museums, period. I remember a couple of years ago when it was in Toronto again, they did a tour to, I think it was the Fashion District in Toronto. So you never know what kind of thing to expect with a Costume Con tour. This ended up really long, completely unintentionally. Unfortunately, I just have a very, very bad habit of rambling. Anyway, I hope that if you are planning to attend your first Costume Con, either this coming year when it's in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, or if you plan to attend Costume Con next year, or the year after, or the year after that, or whenever you plan to attend Costume Con for the first time, keep these things in mind. And if you are a person who is far more experienced with Costume Con than I am, and you see this video, please feel free to add anything that I have more than likely left out, because I guarantee that there's probably like 100 things that I left out. But I thought this would be a handy video for anybody brand new to Costume Con to watch, and maybe help them have a better grip of what to expect when they go to their first one. So that's all for today, and I'll see you later. Bye!